Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0 and we are going through 6 months of my reading journal. The way this video is going to be designed is I'm going to chat through the 6-month spreads of all of the books that I've read, of the reviews I've drawn, my technique, and just the process that is my journaling experience. And then after that, we'll be watching me in probably 4 times speed because we can't be here all day. But I'm going to be doing the mid-year check-in where I have a full drawing of 2 spreads where I kind of talk about statistics, and you'll just be watching me as I design those 2 pages and see my kind of like takeaway from 6 months of reading. I had a good time drawing it, and I hope you have a good time watching me and listening to me commentate. So this is the 2nd year that I've been keeping a reading journal. Last year was my first, and so it was pretty much a trial and error process. I was experimenting, seeing what kind of style I liked in regards to my design of the reviews I was doing, what kind of information I thought was most prevalent, which was most important for me to keep track of in regards to statistics, goals, challenges, and the like. And overall, I really enjoyed the process, and so going into it in the 2nd year, I've definitely upped my game. I have upgraded a lot of my materials that I was using, and we'll go over that as the video progresses. And I've really kind of delved into the process a lot more and just had a lot of fun with it. So I'm excited to show you all how it's been going. The only regret I have had is that I just haven't been recording as much in regards to my bullet journal content. So in the next 6 months, I'm hoping to continue doing that, especially if you all enjoy this video. But without further ado, let's just go into it. Like and subscribe. So differences from last year is that 1, I was using far more simplistic materials. I had a 10 count set of markers, basically all of the solid colors of the rainbow, and it was really cheap. It was under $10. But this year I ended up upgrading to midliner, which has this 12 count of these beautiful, luscious colors, far more variety in the colors I was using as well. And the one really nice aspect of this is that you can see with the markers that they've got 2 sides. And so one of the sides is far thicker, and that allows you to say like fill things in if you want like a thicker line, and then when you flip it over to the other side, you can see that it's a far finer point, and that's just perfect for me, as you'll see that I kind of use both depending on the illustration that I was doing. And like I said, I really like the variety. I like that I have far more choices because you'll see a lot that the colors are dependent on the covers that I have with the books I'm reading and everything else. When I'm writing my reviews though, I just keep it simple with a black marker that's from Papermate. That was about less than $10 for a 4 count, and for the midliner it was about $25 at Target. And then the last splurge was finally getting myself a ruler, which was 45 cents. And then with my bullet journal, I got the same brand as last time, and there's like this nice band that I'm showing. It's got the 2 different kind of bookmarker strings, and then the brand was Minimalism Art, if those who are interested in it. $10-15 for that too. And as we move forward, you'll see that the first page I did was basically a cover page, a title page, very simple 2023 reading journal. The covers, the spines that I used though, it's a bit of an homage to all of the books I loved last year. So those are all books I read in 2022, adored them, and I kind of wanted them to inspire me to read some great reads for 2023 as well. The next spread is 2 pages, and it involves my 23 reading challenges in 2023. I decided not to do goals or plans of any sort, just challenges, see if I can complete them. Some of them I've already failed. Others I'm on my way to finishing, and a couple others I've already completed, including buddy reads. I've been doing a lot of buddy reads in 2023, which has basically been my favorite thing so far. One thing I definitely still want to do is read a book over 600 pages, and I'm still trying to read 15 new to me Golden Age detective fiction authors, but as you can see, I'm very, very behind on that, so just cross your fingers for me. We'll see how it goes. Then moving forward, the next spread actually is one that I really I didn't really know where to go with it, but I ended up doing social media statistics, kind of tracking January 1st, July 1st, and then December 31st, basically a 6-month check-in every time. Instagram has remained pretty consistent for me, which is great. The one thing that I was so surprised by was that my YouTube channel has expanded significantly. So thank you so much for those watching. I really appreciate you joining me, especially if you were here before January or in the last 6 months. Then I have the 23 TBRs in 2023 this time. Rather than last year, I actually listed out 22 books, specific titles. I've only specified genre, giving me a bit more flexibility in mood reading. And then on the other side, I have books purchased. I have a system for that too, whether I've read it, so maybe I borrowed it from the library ahead of time, whether it's on my TBR now, pre-ordered, etc. And then I have advanced readers copies. I added this year as well, just because I'm getting more arcs. And what I'm doing though is I'm only writing it down if I've read it. So there are some arcs that I received, haven't read, and so I'm not adding them to this list yet. And then I am also looking into how many books I actually DNF. And to count, I want to say actually it's been 16 now as of recording this. And yeah, it's interesting to kind of look into. And finally, we have my books read in 2023. This is one of my favorite spreads, and that's just because it's so colorful. I'm really proud of the chair that I drew as well. And what's important to note is that each color is affiliated with a certain month, and this isn't the only spread I do that. So for instance, June has that mauve color. You'll see that mauve color later on as well. And I am of course keeping track of genres and subgenres too. I'm not very good at tracking my series. This is very sparse. Since recording this particular recording, I have updated it and it looks a lot more full now, but I was really bad in the beginning. And then with my publication year, I wanted to see how often I read from a certain year. 2022 is obviously really common for me. Apparently I like new releases. And then I'm keeping track of acquisition methods because I'm Leandra the TBR0, the reading format, so physical, audiobook, ebook, and then new to me authors too, because I find myself reading a lot more new to me authors than returning to old authors that I've already read, loved. And so I kind of find that fascinating. You can see that I'm doing little dots because again, that matches with the month, and that goes with the head-to-head. So the colors that are associated with each month, you'll see that that's what's kind of come through with each one. And then I'm keeping track of monthly statistics too, including like MG, middle grade, YA, adult, or like the star ratings. And I've been really happy. There was only one month that I ended up having an average under 3.5, and that was in February. So yeah, really strong read so far. And finally, before we get into the monthly spreads, I ended up last minute adding gifted finished copies because this year I've just been getting more finished copies from publishers because I'm doing more book tours, and I'm really appreciative and I'm really excited about it. So I wanted to kind of keep track and see what books I've been receiving as gifts as opposed to saying purchases. And then for January 2023, this is the setup for every single monthly spread. So I have the calendar and I'm including basically circling every month that I've read, and that circle indicates which title I was reading that day, and it looks glorious at the end, so I'm really proud of it. And then we have my first review of the year, which was Death of Jezebel. As you can see, I am again kind of categorizing each review with a certain color. Sad Cypress has that bright pink, and it's because it also matches the cover that I had of that particular edition. And usually the illustration that I'm including has something to do with whether it be on the cover or a very particular specific item that, I don't know, has some kind of theme related to the book itself, maybe the conflict, a certain character. You can see with Thing in the Snow, it's the building that is the setting in this very snowy kind of setting. We also have For Just Murdered, this particular red wig, which was very impactful in that particular book, which I won't spoil anything, but I tried to do an illustration that definitely is affiliated with the story and would be like a great memory, a great kind of thing to be like, oh, that's right, I remember how important that was or how key that was. One of my favorite illustrations in my entire collection is definitely The Severed Thread. I was really proud of that particular, what are they even called? You also saw that I had certain monthly superlatives, so I usually talk about like my favorite books, books that felt slow, books I may never read again, books that I want to reread, best couple, that type of thing. And then with February, again, you're seeing a theme here where I'm keeping to just wanting to see how often I read, which is every day. I really like how it ends. end up looking so beautiful and full by the end of the month. And then we have another glorious illustration, A Study in Charlotte. I was so proud of that snake that I drew. It's just so sad that I wasn't very pleased with the book itself. I didn't really like it, but I was like, you know what, I have feelings, and so that's why I'm writing about it. You'll also see that's a really good point that I just made. Good job, Leandra. That usually I'll only write a full review for a book that I adored or that I didn't like very much. And so with The Study in Charlotte, that was a good example of a book that really frustrated me, and it was just, I don't know, an additional fun thing that I got to draw this snake that turned out really good. It's just kind of sad that it did, but anyway, so if I don't tend to write a review for a particular title, I'll usually in the calendar just do my star rating there and leave it at that. But yeah, I'm really proud of that particular butterfly on ink as well. I just think it was really beautiful, and that was a great romance too, a contemporary romance, independently published. Honestly, couldn't recommend it more. I just finished the second book in that series, Hooked by Elizabeth Hunter. Also super fun, great representation with an interracial couple and a plus size romantic interest. And then yeah, we've got our February superlatives. You can see a little bit better that I include like my best cast, favorite lead, favorite sleuth, because I'm a huge mystery reader. This is actually a great example of just how many books I read in March, and some of these were DNFs too, by the way, but the ones with the stars next to them, that means I just didn't feel any type of way, or just didn't have the energy to create an entire one-page spread of a review. So yeah, like that was probably maybe 4 or 5 reviews that I could have done for that additional month of March that I just didn't really want to. And I think that was a great strategy on my point to be like, Leandra, you don't have to review every single book in your bullet journal. Sometimes I feel like when we're doing that, we think we've got to review every single book we read, and then it adds to the feelings of it being a chore, of a responsibility, rather than it just being fun. Whereas, you know, with Rosewood and Lore Olympus, I had so much fun designing the reviews for those books. I really enjoyed kind of drawing those particular illustrations, and so it didn't feel like work to me, versus a few of the other books that I maybe felt meh about, didn't really have anything to say. I didn't want to force the issue and force myself to draw something and to write something. Same goes with Deadline at Dawn, for instance. I had so much fun and was really nervous about drawing that clock tower, but it worked out really well for me, and I had so much to say about that book that I didn't feel like I was forcing myself to design something and just fill a page, especially because, as you saw, I have this huge bullet journal. It's really large, which means that, you know, sometimes if I don't draw this huge illustration, I have to have a lot to say about that book. And so you don't want to do that with a book that you just felt so about, or that you just enjoyed but didn't have any deep thoughts about. So that's why I'm really appreciative of past Leandra for not really putting any type of requirements about reviewing every single book that I do. But honestly, People Love Dead Jews, that was such a good book. It was so thoughtful. One of the few nonfiction books that I read, and you can see there, I didn't do an illustration. Instead, I did a quote, which I've also kind of found is a great way when you're not really sure what to draw. Just putting a powerful quote in can really be a good cincher when you're trying to fill the page a bit. April, you can see, was honestly a pretty bare month. That was really busy for me in regards to my graduate program. My master's thesis was due within the month there, so I didn't really read very much, but that's the point. That's why I like to keep track of that, because now when I see that, I'll remember why it was a slow month for me, and it kind of bleeds into memories about life in general, not just my reading habits. But I did read some really great reads. I read Lore Olympus again, volume 3, which was lovely. We see the butterfly kind of coming back. I've gotten pretty good at drawing butterflies. I also had a really good time drawing the croissant in Death and Croissants in the hand. It turned out okay. And then I had a good time with A Half-Baked Murder too. It was a great cozy mystery that involves some cannabis, which is really fun to see in a very conservative genre. Sorry about the traffic outside, we will move forward. And then, yeah, other examples for the superlatives, I have like a setting section. So most elaborate setting, most realistic setting, and then just the most fun one that I'd be like, this would be so fun to live in, whether it's realistic or not. I definitely came back in full force in May, and read so many books to the point where I filled the entire right-hand column, and again, didn't necessarily finish them all, but I like to keep track of them that way just so I can see what titles I might have tried. And you can see that there were 2 books that I gave star ratings for, meaning that you wouldn't see them in the following review spreads that follow this page. You can also see that I do have notes. Once in a while I've been putting notes in if there's something relevant to mention, and sometimes there just isn't anything to say, so I don't. Here, this is a unique one because I did end up talking about 2 books in one, and that's because I've been reading Ice Planet Barbarians with Brittany over at Brittany Loves Reading. We have been doing every other month a fun reading sprints event where we do it, and because I read those 2 books at the same time, and I already have had a few bullet journal spreads on this series, I just combined them together and kind of compared the 2, which was really fun. So it just shows how you can kind of adapt, and you don't have to stick to the rules that you create for yourself when you're doing a reading journal. If something changes, just change it along the way. It's totally fine. And another one I'm really proud of was that like whiskey decanter that I did for the wedding season as well. I'm really embarrassed by Little Thieves. That did not look really good. The cat, Ragna, I am so proud of that. I think I did a great job with her character. She's like this shape-shifting demigod, but the other drawings, I was like, Leandra, you should have taken your time. That looks horrible. But then I came back. I bounced back with Painted Devils, and I ended up doing this really lovely lantern design, and I pretty much based that off of what's on the cover and on various pages. And so that's another great thing, is just using the covers as reference so that it helps you kind of draw it out. I also need to let everyone know that you don't have to free draw. I do free draw, but that's because I'm lazy to an extent. So you can always draw in pencil first and then follow with colored markers. I never did that. And now we've already reached June. Isn't that crazy? And this was another really full month. I think it's because with school being over, I'm finally able to be free and read as many books as I want. And so I actually did do a lot of review spreads for this particular month, even though I chose not to review 2 of the books. One was Dead Silence. Another one I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of that helmet, that space helmet, and the inclusion of like the drawing words, because that is something that things like messages written in blood is something that happens in the book. And so I was really, really proud that I kind of thought about circling the helmet with that. And then just some really fun reads this month, actually. Viviana Valentine Gets Her Man. I'm really proud of that particular telephone too. That's probably one of my favorites as well, just because it's so cartoony and really fun and boxy. It's huge. And then you can see right after that with Killing Me, couldn't really think of anything, but what I did come up with was the hotel key, and even including the room number that is significant to the entirety of the plot. So that was really fun. And then weirdly, 2 reviews that are very different from each other, specifically in content. We've got The Moon Represents My Heart with like this really kind of fun sandcastle, but also a cigarette. And then right after it, I was like, oh, then I read this children's book with Winnie the Pooh, a cigarette, and then Winnie the Pooh. 2 images that you didn't really think you'd be drawing next to each other, but here we are. And then What Lies in the Woods. It is a little bit weird, but I do think it looks pretty cool. The skull with the flowers. And then I drew the little stuffed animal that is Anya's in Spy Family. I've just finally started manga, and I'm really enjoying the series. Last night I just finished the 2nd book in the series, actually, and like I definitely want to be devouring that as we move forward. And I ended up ending June with The Hatmakers, and that was my 50th book of the year. That means I've read 50 books so far in 6 months, which has never happened. I am honestly as baffled as you are, but so many great reads. I ended up giving it 5 stars. It's such a magical, fantastical middle grade, so fun, adventurous, hilarious, and yeah, you can see with my June superlatives that I had a lot of fun there. And there we are. You can kind of see a few little additional spreads are moving forward. I already kind of designed my July one by this point, but we'll now be moving into the second half of the video, which is actually me doing my mid-year check-in, where I end up kind of putting all of my statistics together in one And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having you guys watch me as I watch myself drawing it out. Just so you know, there were some technical difficulties. I got really frustrated at one point because I thought that I had lost all of the recording, which would have been really frustrating, but I didn't, so we're okay. But yeah, let's just get into that and see what we get up to. All right, here we go. I'm getting ready. I got my statistics. I'm showcasing my original kind of design. So that was from 2022, and yeah, I'm basically kind of going to be doing a similar design from that, where I do the full spread where it says mid-year check-in at the top, do some colorful kind of coloring in there, and then including the same statistics that I had beforehand. And I did bubble letters last time. Kind of decided to do a different kind of design this time. I did a bit more classic, very strong line design there, and you can see that I'm doing free drawing. I definitely could have stenciled out these letters ahead of time, so don't feel like you need to ever just go ham and start free drawing if you aren't comfortable with that. I just, for whatever reason, have never been that interested in stenciling. I'm that same way with a lot of other things I do when I do Sudokus or Sudokus. I also am a huge fan of crossword puzzles. Both of those things I do in pen. I don't do them in pencil. A few of my friends have said that I'm crazy. They think I'm taking chances by not using like a pencil at a time in case I make a mistake, but I don't know. I grew up in a household where my entire family, my parents, only ever used pen when doing those. And so I honestly prefer it. And I don't even think I really own a pencil, if we're going to be honest. So I've got the whole thing out here. I'm drawing mid-year check-in, and I kind of realized it was a bit boring. And last time I outlined, but this time I kind of wanted to fill everything in. So you're seeing that I'm filling in the colors, and I am really flying at the seat of my pants. I did not have any plans on using these colors in any other way rather than just making a really fun, colorful rainbow design in regards to the title. But I ended up incorporating these colors in my statistics in the various categories as we move forward. What's so funny, you can see I'm really pulling out every single color that I own in this pack, and that's why it's so useful. Again, I never want to feel as though I'm pressuring anyone to be buying certain products that they don't necessarily need, they don't feel comfortable spending money on. Here it was a perfect investment for me, but that's because I had already had 1 year of bullet journaling under my belt, and I really enjoyed it. I knew I'd be having the time, wanting to spend the time on like decorating my bullet journal in colorful things like this. But last year I very much was fine with simply like accepting the fact that I won't be spending. Actually, I'm sure I have those markers somewhere, so let me go grab them, and then you'll see exactly like what markers I used last year in comparison to the ones that I used this year. So it's missing a few markers, but like this is what I used last year. Like I said, just a 10 count zebra, very simple, you know, just fine tip marker. And they lasted me the entire year. I think the only one that was dying by the end was the black one, and that's because that was the one that I was using to physically write all of my reviews and outline things. Whereas this year, now I'm, you know, using a plethora of different colors just to showcase it again. You can see them all on screen, but yeah, and it's the same brand, I think, too, actually. Zebra. Yeah, so the same brand, just upgraded to kind of a higher quality marker. And honestly, it's been working fine for me. You can see now that I'm moving on to actually, my goodness, they need to go somewhere apparently. Out here, traffic. Anyway, so you can see that I am already beginning to outline the very kind of statistics that I want. One was top genre. I really have a good time doing top genre stuff. And so the top genres that I did, of course, was mystery. And the second top genre continues to surprise me, but that's because it's still so new to me. is romance. I'm a huge fan of romance now. It's the second year in a row that it's been my second favorite genre to date. And then fantasy. I've been getting way more back into fantasy. I think I was a huge fan of fantasy when I was younger, and then now I'm like, oh my gosh, fantasy is so fun. I totally forgot how escapist it is, and while also kind of discussing certain social commentaries that we don't necessarily might not want to talk about directly, but fantasy, sci-fi, those types of escapist genres do such a great job of still talking about them without feeling as though it's right in your face, being, you know, a bit too overt about it. And then I'm doing out of my comfort zone genres as well, and some of them I'm actually impressed. Like thriller, I think I've read 5 this year. That's crazy. I will say 2 of them are deemed kind of satirical, laugh out loud thrillers, which was really weird. And both of them that I can think of actually were gifted to me from publishers. So a predominant reason why I'm even reading thrillers this year is because publishers have been offering them to me and I've been giving them a chance, which is just, that's really interesting and just shows that taking a chance on things can really open your mind and you can have a good time with them. My oldest read this year is Winnie the Pooh, which I think is so funny. Last year it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which that was only because of a class. To be honest, I was taking this critical theory class and we were reading a lot of classic works like The Awakening, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and of course, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So yeah, I'm really glad that the oldest book I've read so far this year was of my own accord. I wasn't assigned it as a coursework kind of thing, but I will say I'm a bit disappointed that it's not a detective fiction novel. One of my goals this year was to read more Golden Age detective fiction, which of course would put me in the realm of the 20s or the 30s. And I haven't really been doing it as much this year. I've just been busy reading other things, which is totally fine. I do want to get more into Craig Rice, who I just adore so much. And then I also want to read more Agatha Christie. I've only read about 1/3 of her work so far, which honestly is still a lot. Like she read nearly like over 60 novels around there. And so I have read quite a bit by her. But like I still feel like I'm like, oh Leandra, you're slacking. I think I've only read 1 Agatha Christie this year, which is just more so surprising than anything. And then my newest read was Murder at a London Finishing School by Jessica Ellicott. By Jessica Ellicott. She actually, the book isn't even published yet, or as of recording it will be. It's July 2023. It was a gift that I received from Kensington and it was good. I gave it 3 stars. It was fun. I think that it's perfect for those who really enjoy historical mysteries that occur between World War I and World War II. There's a bit of an espionage theme that I wasn't expecting, that I'm still kind of getting used to. So I think that's why I gave it 3 stars. But I love the 2 main characters, these 2, you know, middle-aged women who are solving crimes and being working women in this society. And I think it does also stick pretty well to those who want realistic historical fiction. I think this is up your alley. And then my star ratings thus far, this is good. I'm very pleased to see that I'm about like 1/3 of my reads are 5 stars, 1/3 of my reads are 4 stars, and 1/3 of my reads are 3 stars. The reason why I barely have any 2 or 1 stars is because I DNF. I more often than not, the books I'm DNFing, it's because I'm probably going to give them 1 to 2 stars. And if that's the case, why am I continuing to read them? It doesn't make sense to me personally, because we only have so much time to read. Why would we read books that we are continuing not to like? Because it's very not likely that a book that you're currently going to be giving a 2 star is going to find its way to a 4 or 5 star. Best case scenario, you give it a 3, which is then okay, fine. So I'm really happy with the fact that I'm about 1/3 of the books I read are between 3, 4, or 5 stars. That is perfect. That means that I think I'm doing something right. An average of a 4-star reading experience, that's the money. that's what I'm going for. If it was lower, I'd be really wanting to reconsider what I'm picking up, because that just doesn't make sense to me. I think if 4 stars, perfect. And then acquisition methods. That includes physical audio and ebook. The reason why I got really into that last year is because last year was the first time I ever got into audiobooks in general. And now this past winter, I ended up getting a Kindle. And I still have never purchased an audiobook or an ebook in my life, and I don't really see any reason in the future to start doing that. I'm really lucky though, because I have Libby and Hoopla, and not everyone has that, and not everyone has such amazing access within those apps to like books that they enjoy. For instance, I'm a member of 3 different libraries in regards to having an e-card through Libby. So I have my local one, but I also have an e-card as a resident of the state of Pennsylvania. And so check to see if your state, if you live in the United States, check to see if one of your major cities in your state allows e-cards to state residents, because I live nowhere near Philadelphia, and yet I have an e-card for all of the libraries that are in Philadelphia, and that gives me a huge access to specifically Libby, their overdrive system. So that's where I get most of my audiobooks and a couple ebooks when I want to read an ebook. And in the same case for Hoopla, I'm really lucky that my local library has a Hoopla subscription. And on top of that, I'm also keeping track of like my physical TBR, what I'm purchasing, and like NetGalley, physical ARCs, promotional finished copies. I want to know where I'm getting my books, not just in regards to the format that they're coming in, but am I reading physical books off of my TBR? Because as Leandra the TBR 0, hopefully, one day I'll become Leandra the TBR hero, am I right? Hopefully, maybe one day. So that's why I want to keep track of basically like where I'm getting my books that I've read. The one thing I am really far behind on, as you can see, for a number of purchased books that I haven't read yet. Oh boy. I have purchased quite a few books, but honestly, at least for me, it's a lot. I know that some people probably won't even sneeze at the fact that I've purchased and haven't read 18 books on my TBR, but for me, that's really rough to see. 5 of them are from a subscription service, so that's kind of just, I don't want to say it's out of my control, because clearly I'm subscribing, I'm paying, I'm willing these books to come to me, but it's not like I'm going out of my way to like walk through a bookstore and buy them. Quite a few of them are part of a series, like Fire Song is a part of a series. It's the 3rd in a series. I've already read the first 2 books. I've been meaning to read it. Actually, Hooked by Elizabeth Hunter, which I mentioned earlier in this video, I did just read that this week. That was a purchased book because I loved Ink so much. I went out and supported that author, bought her 2nd book, and now I did read it. So, you know, some of these books, the reason why I spontaneously bought them was because I adored the other books in the series, so I know that that's not necessarily some type of frivolous purchase. Like, I clearly knew I was going to enjoy it because I've already read that author before. Speaking of, so my favorite repeat authors includes Agatha Christie. Even though I ended up only reading 1 book by her this year, she still is someone I really just appreciate as an author. She does a great job in regards to Golden Age detective fiction. That's why she's kind of the gateway author for a lot of people who want to get into that particular subgenre of mystery. I also am still really enjoying Katie Birchall. I ended up reading The Wedding Season and her book, The Secret Bridesmaid. That was my first ever 5-star romance. And so, of course, I really enjoyed her 2nd book that I read. And then I also included a few favorite new to me authors. And what I found so interesting, and you can see that I've included this, but I also added how many books I've read by them this year. And these 3 that I mentioned, I've read more than 1 book by each of them. So clearly my first experience with them was so great that I then proceeded to read a couple more of them. I've read to date, let me see here, Ruby Dixon, obviously, Ice Planet Barbarians. I'm at book 6, read all 6 this year. I am really enjoying Rachel Smith, who is the author of Lore Olympus. To date now, I've actually read the 4 books that are currently out on that series. And then the other one, oh yeah, Margaret Owen, oh my gosh, the Little Thieves series, books 1 and 2, I devoured them, and they're each 500 pages. They're chunky books, and that just in itself demonstrates as someone who hates chunky books, or at least is intimidated by them, that I was willing to read both of them in succession. Loved them. And then interestingly, so if we recall, I read 50 books at this point of recording. So from January to June, I read 50 books, and 32 of those books were by new to me authors. And also you can see that in regards to Owen, Smith, and Dixon, a lot of them ended up becoming repeat authors, but 32 books, 32 new to me authors out of 50. That is insane to think about. That is over 60% of the reads that I'm reading are authors I've never read before. And I knew that that was going to be the case. I knew it was going to be really high, but because I didn't really calculate it last year, I was like, I really want to know what's going on here. And then I just included a few goals for July to December. So just basically try to get back to reading the 23 and 23, try to catch up on my purchased reads, because wouldn't it be lovely? One of my really kind of far-reaching goals is to end 2023 with books that I have, like having no purchased books on my TBR. I don't know if I can do it, but we'll see. And then you can see this is where my audio or my video cut off, and I was really pissed. I realized that my phone had died and I didn't think anything was saved, so that was, everything sped up, but it was about an hour of work me designing these 2 pages, and so I was so mad. I literally had to walk away. It took me days to return. That's why now on the very table I'm recording, you see puzzle pieces, because I decided to start a puzzle and now I'm back to recording. But yeah, so I was really upset. You really didn't miss too many things. I just had a few more goals for like BookTube in that right-hand corner, and I included the kind of percentages in regards to like physical TBR, purchased, etc. And now I'm just kind of coloring in a little bit, adding some fun, different little illustrations, puzzle pieces for the mystery genre, and then I'm including a bouquet of little kind of wildflowers for romance, just trying to fill in that empty white space. And I really don't do it for very long. I kind of realized I didn't care that much, so you're not gonna see this. I promise we're getting to the end of this, but it is kind of funny to think about. And then I had to look up what this emoji looked like, because I couldn't really remember. I could see it in my mind, but I couldn't necessarily remember the design of it. And that is the kind of scared Home Alone face where it's like that one. And honestly, it looks like a little goblin weird thing by the end of this, but I'm happy with it. I think it looks okay. And that's of course just to showcase horror, because that's another genre that I've been trying to get more into. And now that I look at it, having only read 2 books that I deem horror isn't very many out of the 50 I read. So that might have to be something I look more into in the next 6 months, maybe try to read more horror. Actually, my current read at the moment is a YA horror, A Guide to the Dark, which I didn't even realize. This was gifted to me by the publisher, so thank you Henry Holt very much, and thank you Colored Pages Book Tours for kind of connecting us for this process. I'm reading it right now. I am enjoying it. It's really interesting. It's something is building, simmering just out of reach. The room is watching, but Mira and Layla don't know this yet. When they are stranded on their college tour, spring break, best friend road trip, they find themselves at the Wildwood Motel, located in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. Mira can't shake the feeling that there is something wrong and rotten about their room. Inside, she's haunted by nightmares of her dead brother. When she wakes up, he's still there. And then it says like Layla doesn't see him though, and I think there's like a string of deaths in this particular room, like room 9 or something. And I didn't realize, yeah, this is supposedly very haunting, a really great debut for this author specifically, Meriam Metoui. So I'm really excited about it. I included here too like the honey pot for Winnie the Pooh, just as an homage to like my oldest read. And then I didn't really know what to do in regards to my newest read for Murder at a London Finishing School. And this is like a perfect example of why, if you were paying attention, I didn't actually write a review for this book in my physical journal. And that's just because I didn't have much thoughts about it. Nothing really was sparking my interest as far as like an illustration goes. And so when I finally had to do one here, I was like, this is why I didn't write a review. But I ended up kind of settling on just this kind of flower arrangement. There's the rose there, and I think I continue and draw a little bit more, like maybe vines or something. And that's honestly just because in the book, one of the 2 detectives, we have Edwina and we have Beryl. Beryl's American and she wants to be alone. She's been divorced a few times. She's this woman of adventure. Then we have Edwina, who's the far more reserved British classic heroine, and she has this luscious garden at her estate, and she's just a huge gardening, you know, green thumb lady. And so I've included this in regards to just kind of her character at least. And then you have the footsteps, which is just so classic in regards to mystery stuff. And I'm trying to think what else I draw if I do anything. You know what I did do? I didn't even draw, but I didn't like that white space right there. And so I was like, is there a statistic that I just want to include again? And so I am currently boxing out a specific statistic that I don't even remember what it was, if we're going to be honest. So this is going to be a surprise to you and to me. What does it say? Oh, rereads to read. So I think these are repeats to read. So these are authors that I love, but I haven't read again this year that I've really been meaning to. And so I've included Craig Rice, which I've already mentioned actually in this, that's so funny. And then I also included Richard Osman. I've been meaning to read him again. I read Thursday Murder Club, and I didn't really end up, like, he was okay. I gave him 3 stars. Sadly, that's a bit dramatic. I own the other 2 books by him, and then I know that his 4th book is coming out this fall, so I have been meaning to read more of him. And I think I also included, who else did I include on that list? Let's take a look. Oh, Vashti Hardy, that's the one, Fire Song. The one of the purchased books that is the 3rd in a series. And then Anna Burns. I really enjoyed a couple years ago her book that was called Milkman, and I happen to own Little Constructions by her. And yeah, I really loved that book so much that I've been meaning to try another one of her standalones. But all right, now we're flipping through. You're seeing a couple more of my reads that, like, reviews that I've already kind of started for July. I'm on my way. I've already reviewed quite a few other books here too that I've been meaning to fill in. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the first 6 months have gone. The only criticism I have for myself is maybe keeping you all up to date a little bit more frequently, maybe doing a few more bullet journaling, like journal with me videos, and maybe being a bit more consistent about how quickly I review the books, because sometimes I've been a little bit behind and then I've had to kind of play catch up, which of course that's not the process we want. We don't want bullet journaling and reading journaling to feel like a chore and feel like a responsibility, because at this point, probably making YouTube videos, reading, doing all these other things is already on the cusp of feeling like a job when it's not. It's just something really fun and a great passion. But anyway, thanks so much for everyone who's just been here to hear me ramble and chat. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun, and let me know in the comments if you like to bullet journal, what your own kind of tips and tricks are. What was one of your favorite illustrations? And yeah, let me know if you have any advice, because I very much want to continue improving and just adoring my bullet journal to the fullest. Thanks everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!